Cape Ann has a beautiful coastline that supports tourism, fishing, and recreational activities. These areas are also ecosystems that are vital to support wildlife and humans. All living things need a healthy habitat to survive on this planet. Visiting Wingaersheek Beach, we marvel at the soft white sand underfoot, the granite rocks on the shoreline with their tide pools, and the towering sand dunes. But these dunes have a hidden story of destruction. In 1965, the Army Corps of Engineers completed the dredging of the Annisquam River. The sediment dredged from the river was deposited on the salt marsh at Wingaersheek Beach. At that time, it was legal to do this. Eric Hutchins, a marine biologist and habitat restoration specialist, delves into the consequences the Annisquam River dredging project has had on the Wingaersheek Beach ecosystem.
We are actually located at the eastern anchor of the Great Marsh system. And this is one of the largest contiguous salt marsh areas north of, I believe, down in Connecticut. Runs all the way from almost literally where we're standing here in Gloucester on the Annisquam River at Wingaersheek Beach, all the way up into the Hampton area just about of southern New Hampshire. It's a broad area of salt marsh. And because we have the Annisquam River here, it's a nice anchor. We've got a lot of species that actually migrate into the Annisquam River and actually go up the Little River, such as river herring. We've got rainbow smelt, American eel habitat. There's a lot of species that come in here that support this larger system. This area behind me, off to my left, where all that Phragmites is growing, about 12 to 14 acres, what originally was salt marsh. Most every day, the high tides would cover the surface of the marsh and support many species of marine animals, plants, crabs, larval lobsters, all up in this area. This was all marine habitat until they dredged the Annisquam River so that vessels could make it through the Annisquam River. What they first did was built a berm, which we're standing on. It's about 6 feet high, and it's maybe a half mile long. They circled the marsh. And the berm is basically constructed of a wall of dirt 6 to 8 feet high. They just brought dump load after dump truck load of dirt in here and built a pile of dirt in a straight line. And it goes for about a half a mile. And they made a polygon, an area inside the salt marsh, and cut off the salt water. They raised it high enough so salt water could no longer get in here. They made a big bowl inside this area of what was intertidal salt marsh. And then they did what's called suction dredging. They had huge pumps in the Annisquam River to dredge out the channel in a pipe probably 18 to 24 inches wide, and they pumped it as a slurry, so a mixture of sand and gravel and pebbles from the bottom of the Annisquam River, pumped it over the dune grass behind the dune, and dumped it all in here. So the water would run out and the sediment would stay. So when it was all done, they raised the level of the salt marsh, which no longer got salt water, by anywhere from 3 to 5 feet. So they basically turned 12 to 14 acres of intertidal, meaning the tide went in there every day, to a dirt dump. And the salt water doesn't reach here anymore other than through large storm events. What I like to tell people is, from a marine habitat perspective, if the salt water can't reach the habitat anymore, if you have no water, you simply don't have fish. It's as simple as that. You've cut the water out. 12 to 14 acres of habitat no longer supports juvenile fish. Many of the species that we like to catch and eat would have actually grown in this area, mostly as juveniles. So this is a wonderful location right here at the high tide line. I'm standing where last night's high tide reached up to here. Last night this would have been underwater. We've got all the variety of habitats here. We have intertidal habitat for salt marsh down here, the beach habitat, dune habitat. And then if you look off to my right, you can see the invasive Phragmites starting to take over this dune, coming right down to the beach over here. And they're slowly taking over even the upland here, where we have cedar trees and poplars and others. Almost all of our species, whether it's insects, birds, and otherwise, they haven't adapted to it. So it's not forage food for a lot of our native species. It doesn't provide nesting habitat for a lot of birds and other wildlife. The vision that I and many others have had at this site, going back about 15 years now, is it's relatively simple. It's to remove the dredge disposal material, regrade it down. So you'd bring machinery into this marsh, remove the berm, regrade the salt marsh, bring it back, take the dredge disposal material out of here, which would be anywhere from 2 to maybe 5 feet in some locations, and bring it back down. The original peat, the original salt marsh is still down there, the material that it would like to grow in, and create a new, what's called a dendritic system. It's kind of like the veins in your arms, but basically new creeks and channels throughout the 12 to 14 acres, maybe upwards of that amount, and restore pools for fish, creeks, mudflat for soft-shell clams, as well as American eel habitat, which young American eels and juveniles love this type of habitat. From a climate resilience perspective, one of the benefits of undertaking salt marsh restoration at this location is it helps put this dune system back in equilibrium with nature. With future storms, even just sea level rise, storm surges, even just natural tides, it allows this dune system to migrate inland like it normally and naturally would have, where you would have salt marsh on this side, beach, dunes in the middle. Salt marshes, when given the right opportunity, can actually keep up with a certain level of sea level rise. They can capture sediment, and actually they can rise with increasing sea levels over years to come. If it can keep up with sea level rise, can and will provide some level of storm surge and sea level rise protection to the surrounding human infrastructure in this area. Ecological benefits creates ecological resilience for the future of the habitat and the marine and avian species that are located here at Wingaersheek Beach.